After going back through the Yosemite video, I thought to myself, man, this thing is just so boring. It's just me talking and talking and talking and talking. And I took these gigantic negatives. These are the negatives. These gigantic 4x5 images, and spend a couple of minutes talking about them, and mostly just sitting down in hotels and going blah, 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 lodges or whatever. So I decided to do one cutting out all of the narrative and just talking about the film. The film, the whole film, and nothing but the film. Just talking about the film. So that's what we're going to do here. I'm going to talk about the film shot during the Yosemite trip, go over those pictures. We'll talk about some of the check shots that I took leading up to that, and might add in some discussion of some other film and negatives and carry on about that, because talking about film photography is kind of what we do here. Also, we'll not talk about digital this time around. No digital images. I don't like comparing film and digital. In fact, I don't like comparing cameras, because I don't think that that's the right way to go about it. The right camera, and I'm going to say this in a very simple statement, the right camera is the camera that you use to effectively communicate your vision or your memory of a scene, a particular point in space and time. And that's it. That is the right camera. It doesn't matter if the right camera is a Polaroid or a phone or a Diana or a Holga or the latest Sony A7 R10000. It doesn't really matter. If it is the right camera for you to convey your vision, then it is the right camera. That being said, let's talk about some film. Let's put on some music to talk about these photos. So first off, this photo of Valley View is out of the two exposures that I took in Yosemite. This one's actually my favorite. And it's kind of difficult to say why, but I like, just the feel of it and the depth of it. The foreground is very much foreground, the background is very much background, sure. But one of the reasons that this is my favorite is because out of the two exposures that I've had developed so far, I should say, is because it gives so much grander of a sense of scale, I feel, than the other one. And also because it was a very intimate parking area with not a lot of people there. Just a couple of us kind of enjoying the nice, misty, slightly chilly morning. But in the upper right part of the photo, the crepuscular rays coming across the film, crepuscular in this case meaning twilight, either morning or evening, so sunrise, sunset. Not just in this case, like it always means that. They give a really interesting kind of dimension to the photo and show that it's really kind of three-dimensional that way. It's the same thing with the light to dark movement as you go throughout the photo, the movement through the zones, if you're a zone photo person. If you look across the river, there's a little bit of fog. It actually shows up a little bit better in color, I think. So I'm waiting to get those Ektar scans back, or Ektar frames back. I don't currently have any color chemistry, which is why I sent those off. And I thought to myself, surely a couple of 4x5s in Ektar or in color chemistry won't take all that long, but I'm still waiting. I don't think they've even been processed yet. The tunnel view shot, I do like. It's shot from further away and a different viewpoint. I love all this really, really in focus stuff in the foreground and in the background. It looks really nice. And those diagonal rays cutting through, this one was taken a little bit later than the other one, and that's why the sun is up a little bit higher. But those diagonal rays cutting through the photo look really cool. And there's just so much detail in this one. I want to go back there with probably a 150 millimeter lens and take this shot again, and maybe, you know, some filters on it to kind of cut down the haze, maybe increase contrast a little bit, something like that. Now, both of these were Fomapan 400, and they were developed in Ilfosol 3. Ilfosol 3, I wouldn't say is my absolute favorite developer, but it does a decent job. I think overall, I like D76, Rodinal. Caffenol was actually a pretty fun one. Here's a 16 by 17 or 6 by 17 exposure that I took in Alaska on the Turnagain Arm. From the Anchorage side, looking across to Hope, Alaska, and this was Tri-X 400, but I developed it in Caffenol because I couldn't get Rodinal or any liquid developer, and most powder developers shipped to Alaska. So one thing to bear in mind, if you're going to Alaska to take beautiful film photos, it may be difficult to get some developer. There's a pretty cool camera store called Stewart's in Anchorage, but they never had any developer when I was there. So one thing that you probably will want to do is either get familiar and happy with alternative processes like Caffenol, ship your film back to yourself, or use a powder developer or something like that. There are a number of ways to get around it. Just a lot of developers have to ship hazmat. After I cleaned up my Rollie after the Crater Lake video, I went out and shot these two exposures using the same Tri-X 400 and Ilfosol 3, and they got pretty good acutance, pretty good grain, a decent amount of detail. I'd say, you know, fair amount of fair amount of highlights, shadows, and midtones. They look pretty good. I'm pretty happy with them. Speaking of Rodinal, here's a couple of exposures that I did using HP5 and Rodinal. Some people really love the look of Rodinal. I'm one of those people. Some people really hate it. It's a very high contrast, high acutance developer, and people who don't like it will tell you that there are so many newer formulations, and yeah, that's totally true. They're great. A lot of new developers are great, and you should play around with them. They're really fun. Now, looking at the developing notes here, let's see, we've got Route 66, Route 66, Route 66, and Route 66, yep. All those were, looks like HP5 with Rodinal. So they all have kind of a similar character depending on their exposure. But all the whites are fairly white, all the darks are fairly dark. There's just, you know, a lot of contrast, and of course that lovely, interesting character of old American ghost towns, which is just a ton of fun. Now, these ones, the shot from the inside with that little, looks like a Subaru in the doorway kind of hiding out there in the highlights, that was taken in Pilot Point, Texas. There's a little coffee shop there that closes down sometimes and reopens sometimes. The saddle, that's going to be the same thing. It was taken in the same building. And this not so tastefully rundown set of bars would have been the same thing. So, yeah. Now, this one here was taken in San Francisco and developed by a lab. I know what the film was, but I don't know what the developer was. But a lot of those shots from that trip have this kind of like middle of the contrast range look, which is fine. This one's a really interesting one, and it kind of gets toward like one of my 3 photographic obsessions, and that is doors. Like, I have a thing about photographing doors because there's some kind of mystery there. You wonder sort of what's on the other side of this door. And of course, in the case of this door, which clearly is at 666 whatever street, it's kind of a big mystery, right? Like, it makes me wonder, was something filmed here? Did someone famous live here? Is the person who lives here a man of wealth and taste? I have no idea. But I take a lot of photos of doors. So there's the bent door Midway Station on Route 66, taken during COVID. There's this strange boarded up door thing, which I think was somewhere in New Mexico. I don't really know anything about it. There's this ornate door, which I took in Mexico, not New Mexico, which is really kind of an interesting one. And also this more plain but more characterful door, just made out of wood planks with only a keyhole and no handle. That one kind of makes me wonder about it. But while we're on the subject of doors, let's talk about some more doors. Here's a door with terrific value. So I think this one was in Portland, and across the street, I guess they're having a sale. You can see in the window. And then there's some very interesting geometric art, and there are some doors in there, but you can't get to them. And it does kind of make you wonder, like, what's in there? What is behind that door? Here at the Apache Motel, which was super duper closed, there are just a bunch of boarded up doors, but I feel like I know what's in there. It's just going to be like, I don't know, rats and cockroaches. That place looks like it has been closed for a good long while. Anyway, enough about my obsession with doors. Popping back over to the Yosemite exposures. I think a couple of things I'd really like to see. I mean, I'd like to see what those Ektar frames look like. As I was putting all of these, both of these, well, the 4, as I was putting the 4 negatives, black and white negatives that I shot in Yosemite away, I had the chance to kind of look through my folders, which I keep all of my negatives in archival sleeves so that they don't get dusty or get damaged or anything like that. And also it allows me to more carefully label notes about the film, where they were taken, when they were taken, what film stock, although you can usually see that on the margin, and also what developer, and I can also reference my developing notes the same way. It's real convenient that way. But as I was looking through all of my film, I came across this exposure that was developed very shortly before the COVID-19 pandemic hit, and then I just kind of stuck it into the file, never really thought about it. And I looked back, while I was doing this, I looked back at this roll and noticed that this orange streak here is a light leak, and it appears in a handful of these negatives from this one roll. But I didn't know what camera I shot this with, because my notes actually weren't very good this time. So this started up a little bit of a mystery. And one thing about me, I love mysteries. So I think I'm actually just going to leave everyone in suspense and break this off into part 2. The next video will be talking about the mystery. Yeah, I did solve it. It actually wasn't that difficult to find out which camera. But I'm going to take that camera out and test it after did some repairs. I'm going to test it and see if the light leak has been solved. So So yeah, tune in next time to find out more about the mystery. And on your way out, I'll give you 3 more photos of doors. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. So this one, this was taken in San Jose del Cabo. Obviously the focus is on the beer, not so much on the door, but the door does actually frame it. And this is, some lovely glowing character you get from Portra 400. This guy was taken on the Oregon coast. I think it was in Brookings and also Portra 400. And this last one was taken in La Paz. And it's one of my favorites just because of the silhouette and the colors. This was on Velvia 100, which is kind of why it's a little less precise than the others, but it does have that lovely glowing character of slide film that we all know and love. And if you don't know and love slide film, then it's definitely something worth checking out. But keep in mind, it's a little bit harder to shoot with. And with that said, have a good one.